All right, we'll call the Historic Preservation meeting to order. It's 6:01. We'll go ahead and stand and have the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, Jesse, if you would go through roll call, please.
Member Horning,
Yes.
Member Gershenlauer, and he did not provide notice of his absence, so he will have an unexcused absence for the record. Member Bryant? Here. Member Lamug, she provided a notice of her absence this evening, so it will be an excused absence for the record. Vice Chair Stark?
Here.
Member Jones?
Here.
Chair Clark?
Present.
Member Estill?
Present.
And Member Estill will be a voting member this evening. Member Day? Here. And Member Day will also be a voting member. And we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes of our last meeting, November 9th?
Yes,
I'd make a motion to approve minutes.
I'll second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Any further discussion? No? All those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise? Minutes have been approved. All right, that brings us to our first item of business, which is the Certificate of Appropriateness application for 1613 10th Street.
Okay. Christine Dalton, Historic Preservation Consultant for the City of St. Cloud. I will be reading the staff report to you all tonight. The request is for demolition and new construction at 1613 10th Street. The application is requesting approval from the Historic Preservation Board to demolish the building located at 1613 10th Street with the intent to replace it with a new building. And the location is shown in Figure 1. My computer keeps crashing, so bear with me. Okay, so the scope of work on the Certificate of Appropriateness application was exterior alterations include the demolition of the existing contributing building and replacement with a two-story metal building. The existing building has been historically used as a single-family residence, and the proposed new building would be used as a two-story commercial restaurant. I've got some background here in the staff report. The building is located within the boundaries of the city's Historic Preservation District and has been identified in the 2020 Historic Resource Survey to be a contributing building. According to the Osceola County Property Appraiser, the 776 square foot building was built in 1936 and has been maintained as a residential use. The building is shown in Figure 2 in your packet, and according to the Osceola County Property Appraiser website, the property was purchased on April 22nd of 2021 for $115,000. That shows in your packet as Attachment A. Real estate listings website Realtor.com reflects various perspectives of the building's condition earlier in 2021 when it was actively listed for sale, and those images are shown in Attachment B. The listing stated, quote, property includes 2 existing rental units and a vacant lot. Owner will hold financing if needed, and property is already generating income, end quote. It appears at the time of the listing that the building had 1 residential tenant. On September 23rd, 2021, a Certificate of Appropriateness application was submitted, and that is COA 21-00022, and that is Attachment C. And the scope of work stated tear down of existing home on property, new build commercial building to be used as a restaurant. The application included limited information on the proposed new construction. Included was a boundary survey, which you'll find in your packet as Attachment D, and schematic drawings for an 80-foot by 40-foot steel building. That is Attachment E. On November 10th, 2021, City of St. Cloud Historic Preservation Consultant Christine Dalton contacted the property owner Sandra Schneider to schedule a phone meeting to obtain additional information on the proposed project. The meeting occurred on November 11th, 2021. On November 16, 2021, the HPC sent an email to the applicant detailing the historic district regulations and additional information needed. That email is listed as Attachment F. The applicant responded with a request to meet with the Historic Preservation Board and was advised that a meeting date for December 14 had been scheduled. Additional information was again requested from the applicant at that time. On November 22nd, 2021, the applicant emailed a home inspection report conducted by Chief Inspection Services, which details concerns related to the building. That inspection report is listed as attachment G. On November 24, 2021, the applicant emailed 2 images, attachment H, that were intended to represent the proposed metal building. The images are of 2 different facades reflecting the front and side elevations only and do not appear to match in scale, massing, or design the previously submitted schematic drawing, attachment A. On November 30th, 2021, the property owner sent an email stating her concern over the safety issues regarding the condition of the building. That email is attachment I. On December 1st, 2021, Building Department Director Bob Detheridge, building official, conducted a site visit and determined that in its current condition, the structure is unsafe. So the rest of the staff report is going to contain verbatim excerpts from ordinance number 2018-57, and a full copy of this ordinance can be obtained through the City of St. Cloud website, or the city can provide it to anyone here by request. I've pulled out the sections that are pertinent to this application. And so the first one that we've got is Article 3, Division 24, Historic Preservation Overlay District, Section 3.24.5. And that section is regarding unsafe buildings and structures. So it states, should the building official determine that a historic property or a property within a historic district is unsafe, the Planning and Zoning Department staff and the HPB shall be notified of such findings. A, within applicable laws and regulations, the building official shall request that the resource be repaired rather than demolished and shall take into account any comments and recommendations provided by Planning and Zoning Department staff or the HPB. The building official may take appropriate actions to effect and accomplish the preservation of the resource, including but not limited to negotiations with the building owner and other interested parties, provided that such actions do not contradict with the Florida building codes. B, in the case where the building official determines that there are emergency conditions dangerous to the life, health, or property affecting a historic property or property within a historic district, and timely demolition is the only course of action, the building official may order the demolition and notify the Planning and Zoning Department of the impending action. In this instance, a certificate of appropriateness will not be required, and the HPB will promptly be notified of the action being taken. So staff's comments are that the building official has determined that in its current condition, the building is unsafe. The building official has not determined that there are emergency conditions dangerous to the life, health, or property that would result in timely demolition being the only course of action. The next section is from the Land Development Code, Article 3, Division 24, Historic Preservation Overlay District, Section 3.24.7, Section F. And this is regarding maintenance and repair of designated properties, demolition by neglect prohibited. 1, ordinary maintenance or repair. Nothing in this division shall be construed to prevent the ordinary maintenance or repair of any exterior elements of any building or structure that does not involve a change of design, appearance, or material, and which does not require a building permit. 2, affirmative maintenance required. The owner of a property designated pursuant to this chapter, either individually or as part of a district or zone, shall comply with all applicable codes, laws, and regulations governing the maintenance of the property. It is the intent of this section to preserve from deliberate or inadvertent neglect of the exterior features of such properties and the interior portions thereof, what maintenance is necessary to prevent deterioration and decay of the property. All such properties shall be preserved against decay and deterioration and shall be free from structural defects through prompt corrections of any of the following defects. 1, facades that fall and injure the subject property, adjoining property, or members of the public. 2, deteriorated or inadequate foundations, defective or deteriorated flooring and floor supports, deteriorated walls or other vertical structural supports. 3, members of ceilings, roofs, and roof structures or other structural members that may rot, sag, split, or buckle due to defective materials or deterioration. 4, deteriorated or ineffective waterproofing of exterior walls, roofs, foundations, or floors, including broken, unsecured, or missing windows or doors. 5, any fault or defect in the property that renders it structurally unsafe, insufficiently protected from weathering, or not properly watertight. Staff's comments in regards to this are between the property purchase date of April 22nd, 2021 through the application date of September 23rd, 2021. Photographic evidence reflects that the building has been gutted. There has been no evidence that measures have been taken to comply with the affirmative maintenance required for the property as outlined above. There are no records of certificate appropriateness or permit applications aimed at repairing the building. I'm just going to pause there because I need to advance some slides here. So this was the background, continuation of the background. If anybody needs me to pause on any of these slides, let me know. Okay. A little bit more of the background, and this is where we're getting into the details from the ordinance and staff's comments. So do you all need me to pause on these? Okay. So we are now up to Article 3, Division 24, Section 3.24.8, Section B. So let me just make sure I'm caught up to that. Here we are. Okay. There's additional criteria in this section related to new construction and alterations, and it states the following. All new construction and alterations to existing buildings within a designated historic district or an individually designated property shall be visually compatible and meet the following guidelines as determined by the HPB. 1, setting, orientation, and setbacks. The buildings should be situated approximately the same distance from the street as adjacent historic buildings to create a continuous street edge. The orientation of the building should be visually compatible with that of the buildings in the historic district at street level. The setting should be designed with the overall environment in mind. It should take into account the compatibility of landscaping, parking, service areas, walkways, and accessory structures. 2, building height. The height of the building at street level, i.e. from a 15-foot perspective, should be visually compatible in comparison or relation to the height of the existing contributing buildings in the historic district. 3, design styles. New buildings should take their design cues from the prevailing architectural styles within the historic district. Traditional or contemporary design standards and elements should relate to the existing styles. 4, proportion of openings. The openings of any building within a historic district should be visually compatible with openings in existing contributing buildings within the historic district. The relationship of the width of windows and doors to the height of windows and doors should be visually compatible with the existing contributing buildings within the historic district at street level. 5, rhythm of solids to voids. The relationship between solids, which are walls, and voids, windows and doors, of a building should be visually compatible with the surrounding buildings at street level. Rhythm of spacing along the street is number 6. The relationship of buildings to the open space between them should be compatible with the other buildings on each side of the street in that block. 7, relationship of materials and textures. The materials and textures of a building should be chosen with the predominant materials of the historic district in mind to the greatest extent possible. Simplicity in such use is preferable. 8, roof shapes. The roof shape of a building is a major distinguishing feature. The roof shape of a building should be compatible with the roof shape of existing contributing buildings within the historic district. The roof shape shall be consistent with the architectural style of the building to the maximum extent possible. 9, size, scale, bulk, mass, and volume. The physical size, scale, bulk, mass, and volume should be compatible with the existing contributing buildings within the historic district at street level, and where appropriate may be stepped back above 35 feet in building height. Staff's comments regarding this are: the proposed new construction does not comply with the criteria related to new construction and alterations outlined in the ordinance. Specifically, the setting, orientation, setbacks, building height, design style, proportion of openings, rhythm of solids to voids, rhythm of spacing along the street, relationship of materials and textures, roof shape, size, scale, bulk, mass, and volume do not comply with the requirements outlined in the ordinance. Excuse me. The next section is Article 3, Division 24, Historic Preservation Overlay District, Section 3.24.8, Section B. Demolition. All demolitions of contributing historic structures within a historic district or structures on the local historic register within the city limits shall comply with the following. 1, simultaneous certificates required. No building or structure on a property or located within a historic district shall be demolished without first receiving a certificate of appropriateness for new construction. The applications for demolition and new construction shall be reviewed by the HPB and by the Planning and Zoning Department. The requirement of a certificate of appropriateness for new construction may be waived by the HPB upon a good cause showing that requirement would be unduly harsh or would result in a substantial financial hardship to the property owner. Substantial hardship. 2, A showing of good cause may include, but is not limited to, evidence that the property owner is unable to comply with the requirement for simultaneous new construction due to advanced age, infirmity, physical or other debilitating handicap, or financial hardship. 3, if an application for a certificate of appropriateness for demolition is approved, the owner shall, at his or her expense, fully record the building prior to demolition. At a minimum, the owner shall provide an architectural description, floor plan with interior and exterior dimensions, interior and exterior photographs, and any other information requested by the HPV. Said record shall be deposited with the city clerk, where it will be made available to the public. 4, upon approval by the HPV of a certificate of appropriateness for demolition, the demolition permit shall not be issued until all demolition and new construction plans for the property have received all other required governmental approvals. 5, the existence of one or more of the following conditions may be the basis for denial of a demolition application. A, the resource contributes significantly to the historic character of a property, of a designated property or district. B, the resource is listed in the National Register of Historic Places. C, the resource is one of the last remaining examples of its kind in the neighborhood or city. D, the resource is capable of being repaired and reused in a practical and feasible manner. E, retention of the resource would promote the general welfare of the city by providing an opportunity to study local history, architecture, and design, or by developing an understanding of the importance and value of a particular culture or heritage. F, granting a certificate of appropriateness. Can we make sure that we have devices? Because
Yes, if everybody
get
at this time will
into
make
the
sure that
record.
your cellular devices are put on to vibrate or silenced. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm trying to silence it. I'm just trying to call up the ordinances so I can follow along what she's reading.
It's in your staff report.
I couldn't find it.
It's reflected in each of the staff comments in our reports.
All of that, okay. I just missed it.
Okay. So just for you to follow along on page 6, I'm at F right now.
Okay,
Got it?
got it.
Okay. Granting a certificate of appropriateness for the demolition would result in an irreparable loss to the city of a significant resource. G, the plans for the simultaneous new construction, if the demolition is granted, are not compatible with the property or district. Staff's comments here are demolition of a contributing historic structure requires a simultaneous certificate of appropriateness for new construction. The applicant has not submitted sufficient information for the board to render a determination on the proposed new construction. The property owner has not provided evidence that they are unable to comply with the requirements due to advanced age, infirmity, physical, or other debilitating handicap or financial hardship. The resource contributes significantly to the historic character of the designated district. The resource is capable of being repaired and reused in a practical and feasible manner. The limited plans for the simultaneous new construction do not appear to be compatible with the district. And just as a reminder for everyone here tonight, this is a quasi-judicial matter, and as such requires disclosure of all ex parte communications, investigations, site visits, and expert opinions regarding this matter. So if anybody has had any ex parte communication, that should be disclosed.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I have had a conversation with Mr. Dunick in reference to this issue.
Thank you.
Okay. Staff recommendation. Staff recommends the HPD deny the request to demolish an existing building and construct a new building at 1613 10th Street based on a finding that the proposed demolition and new construction are not consistent with the purpose and intent of ordinance number 2018-57, City of St. Cloud Land Development Code, Article 3, Division 24, Historic Preservation Overlay District, and does not comply with the requirements outlined in ordinance number 2018-57 as outlined in the staff report. Specifically, the proposed demolition of a contributing historic structure requires a simultaneous certificate of appropriateness for new construction, which the board is unable to grant at this time due to insufficient information. The property owner has not provided evidence that they are unable to comply with the requirements due to advanced age, infirmity, physical or other debilitating handicap, or financial hardship. The resource contributes significantly to the historic character of a designated district and is capable of being repaired and reused in a practical and feasible manner. The proposed new construction does not comply with the criteria related to new construction and alterations outlined in the ordinance. Specifically, the setting, orientation, setbacks, building height, design style, proportions of opening, rhythm of solids to voids, rhythm of spacing along the street, relationship of materials and textures, roof shape, size, scale, bulk, mass, and volume do not comply with the requirements outlined in the ordinance. Additionally, staff recommends the Historic Preservation Board request that the building official require action to be taken by the property owner to secure the building from further damage and the site from access prior to submitting a building permit application for repair. Securing the building from further damage may include, but not be limited to, providing additional bracing and framing and securing fenestrations with plywood. Securing the site from access may include, but not be limited to, erecting a construction fence around the building with clearly marked caution and no trespassing signs. And that is the end of the staff report. If any board members have any questions.
Christine, the only question I have, has anything changed since we put the recommendations in place?
Yeah. Okay.
All right. If the board didn't have any questions of Christine, does the applicant wish to come and speak in regards to this?
Mr. Chair, board members, my name is Chuck Dunnick. I live at 5335 Maryland Lane, St. Cloud. I've been asked by the Schneider family to represent them here tonight, and I had a good conversation with Christine, and she was very informative on the issues that you all deal with, on making sure that we keep the integrity of the Historical Society intact. I physically went to this building and went inside, and what I found was it's dangerous, it's unsafe, there's boards holding up the walls. You cannot secure it because there's nothing to nail into or screw into because all the window openings are rotten. And I did fall through the floor. Thank God I wear boots because I didn't hurt myself. So what I'm asking is, they want to work with this historical society and put up a very nice, historic-oriented flavor of the neighborhood, what you want. They want to work with you. When you say work with the staff, I assume that's Christine. I don't know what other staff you have. So anyway, that's what they want to do. But right now, they've got a liability. They've had a licensed general contractor inspect the property, write up a report. Your building official has confirmed what he said. And I just want to let you know what he said. He said that the structure is unsafe and should be considered for removal to prevent injury or damage to the public. That's today, yesterday, last week, 6 months ago. And then based on the observations at the time of the inspection, the restoration of the original structure would not comply with the provisions of the 2020 Florida Building Code. So if you cannot restore the building and comply with the 2020 Building Code, then you're just throwing money in the ditch. So here's what we're asking. We're asking that you go ahead and let us take this liability, and it is a mess. When I went in there, the needles, the diapers, the cigarette butts, beer cans, beer bottles, all the stuff that we find in there, because it's easy to break into this place. You can't keep people out. You can put a fence, they'll climb it. I'm telling you, it doesn't work. We want to get rid of this eyesore. We want to remove it, and then in consultation with your staff, come forward with the building plans that you guys say, man, that's exactly what we want. So that's what we're here for. I heard everything Christine said, and I'm telling you, you have to study hard to understand everything that is part of the historical district and what you have to do to comply and improve property in that historical district. So it's a method. They've had somebody on staff. They're not going to, I mean, this is my people, the Schneiders. They will work with somebody to come up with some plans, some conceptuals for y'all to consider on what they want to do, maybe make you feel a little bit better. But I know some of you, I know Paula, you're in the construction business. You know, trying to get people to get some things done in a timely manner is tough. So they now have moved to another agency who is going to provide what I think Christine and this board would like to have. But at this time, we just want to get rid of this liability. Somebody's going to get hurt, something's going to happen, it's just a matter of time. And now we've been notified by a licensed general contractor and a building official. They all know we got an unsafe structure over there. And so, you know, we just want to remove that from town and let's start with something nice. So, answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Board members?
So has the building official determined that the only option at this point is demolition?
I believe so. I have not talked to him, and I've not seen a report from him, but I think in your, Christine, does it reflect in your, I believe you've had it.
So in the staff report, he did determine that it was unsafe, but he did not determine that it needed to be torn down. So unsafe condition doesn't automatically mean demolition. So let me find just so you know where it is, so you can read it there in the staff report. I know it's kind of hard to listen to me read. It's on page 3 under unsafe buildings and structures. So there's A and B that the building official considers when looking at unsafe buildings and structures, and so the staff comments are there, that he has determined that in its current condition, the building is unsafe, and has not determined that there are emergency conditions dangerous to the life, health, or property that would result in timely demolition. Usually that happens where, say, there's like a structure fire or something, or some kind of natural thing that happens where suddenly the building becomes unsafe, is usually when a building official will make that determination. In this case, he did not. So he did state it's unsafe, it's not habitable, but not an immediate demolition. Okay?
Ms. Bryant, in further to answer your question, I have a licensed general contractor who stated that if we do repair that building, that it's not going to meet Florida building codes. So we have something that we can't make habitable, livable, restorable. So we've got something that we have to remove. And we just want to get it removed now. We don't want to wait 6 months, 9 months. We want
I
to.
understand you're repeating yourself, so
Is that
please.
listed in this report?
No, it's not listed in the
No,
report.
it's not. Chuck, I have a question.
Do you not have a copy of the general contractor's report?
We have a copy
yes,
of
it's in
the
here.
inspector, which does
inspector.
not indicate that he's a general
He
contractor.
is a licensed general contractor.
He did
Matter of
not
fact,
put that on his documentation,
I know.
therefore
I
it's
saw
not
it.
legal.
I saw
that
that, Mr.
regard.
Chairman, and it got me too, but I looked it up. He is a licensed general contractor.
Yes, but he's not, this report that he's given is not based on him stating as a general contractor, that's his opinion.
Okay.
Before Paula asked her question, has the client had an architect or a structural engineer do a professional assessment of the structure?
Not at the present time. With the findings of what he had, he figured it wasn't necessary, but I believe that's something we could bring forthcoming and take it straight to the building officials, I guess, because then he can deem it needs to go.
Paula, you had a question?
So Chuck, my question would be, let's just assume that there was an approval to have the building demolished, with the understanding that you all want to bring new renderings or something back that would meet the standards that we would require for a new building. And then they don't meet the requirements and we've demolished the building. What do you think would happen at that
Well,
time?
let me ask you a question. Let me answer your question with a question. Can they get their plans approved without your approval? Can they get their new building plans approved without your approval?
I don't believe so, not at this
I don't
stage.
So then, I believe the integrity of this board is protected by, unless they're willing to work with you to get a set of renderings and plans that they're gonna bring forth to the building department, without your blessing, I don't believe they're gonna be able to do anything on that property.
So just from a point of view, two of the conditions as far as that's a basis of denial is whether or not if the resource is capable of being repaired and reused in a practical and feasible manner. I believe that for me to believe that, I would have to have documentation either from a structural engineer or an architect. The general contractor is not sufficient in my mind to make that determination as to the feasibility of whether that could be repaired and restored. The other one is the fact that the plans for new construction are not compatible with the property or district. Without, and that again, I guess I'll ask because it hasn't been brought up, has the applicant started the process for the SDP in order for the new construction to go forward? Has that application been made to the city?
He has stopped the people that he was working with because they weren't able to produce a product for you in timely fashion. So now he's with another agency.
I'm not asking about a product for me, I'm asking
For the board,
for them to construct a new building.
right,
They have to process a site development plan.
Correct.
Through the city. I'm asking, have they started that process?
it's been started and put on hold, correct?
So you've applied to the city of, you've made an application to the city of St. Cloud for a site development plan.
Well, we started and then the people that we
Larry,
were.
Ma-
you need to
If
Can
you
you-
come up to the microphone, please.
And just state your name and address for the record.
Larry Schneider, 4320 Packard Ave. We started with the company, and we started the process. I don't know if it officially got sent in yet.
Well, you'd know because you would have paid a lot of money and you would have signed an application
Oh,
fee
okay.
for it to happen.
Well, this is a process for us.
Okay.
That's why we're here today.
Okay. So basically, you haven't applied for that, for the new construction. So the criteria that we're looking at as far as being able to, compatibility as far as with new construction, we don't have anything to make that basis.
Okay.
Right.
So no matter what you put in the package as far as the steel building. You can take over, you can step up, name
Now,
and
that's just like a
address.
woman.
Name and address for the record, please.
My name is
and-
Sandra Schneider, 4320 Packard Avenue.
Okay,
Okay, in regards to your question about a certificate of appropriateness application for the new construction, no. We were told that this was the first step that needed to be taken prior to moving
okay.
forward at all.
You're mishearing what I said. It's the site development plan application that has to go in because that's the information that you're going to be providing to the city.
Correct.
And
we
that's
were
going to be
told-
the basis for this certificate of appropriateness, which if I read it correctly, and staff can correct me, but it indicated demolition and new construction. So my understanding is the certificate of appropriateness that we're discussing right now is for both demolition and the new construction.
Correct, and we were trying to waive that just to get the approval just to remove the building. And it says in there too, if I need to go back and read all of that, I mean, I know it was hard to keep up with everything that she was reading, but it specifically says in there, unless the building official deems that the property should be demolished or put a construction fence around it and put no trespassing signs. As Chuck stated before, if we do that, people are still going to get in. There was holes dug up through the floors. There were homeless people, squatters, drug addicts, whatever.
Yes,
This is a big
I-
liability for
I
everybody, and the
understand that
only
aspect
thing.
of it, and we're talking about whether we have the information that we need in order to make the decision.
Correct,
Regardless
and
of how
the
you
city
can.
told us to come here first.
Regardless of how.
So that's the
excuse
steps
me.
we were taking.
Please don't interrupt.
That's
please.
what you were doing to me. So I apologize for finishing my sentence.
At this point in time, we're asking questions of you. Once we hear what you've answered, anything else that you want to go on is not relevant to what we're trying to do. What I'm trying to say is that if we don't have sufficient information to make the determination, it doesn't matter whether you feel your property is unsafe. It's your requirement as a property owner to make it as safe as possible. It's not our responsibility as a board in which to take care of your security.
So
On
can I
that
respond now, or?
To what?
I'm trying to make a point. You're telling me that it doesn't matter what we say about how safe the building is. There has been a licensed contractor come out there. I understand that it's not stamped that way on the inspection report. This was a GC that offered to help me with the reconstruction of this home, okay? As he came out to the property and noticed everything inside, as everything's notated in there, it's not salvageable, it's not whatever, all of the above, okay? All we want to do is take this down. If, God forbid, a hurricane would have came, before we got to meet with you guys or whatever, originally when we bought the property, that building would have flown into the fire station or into 10th Street, therefore putting everybody that's squatting inside that home in danger, everybody on 10th Street in danger, and surrounding buildings. So in my opinion, and the general contractor's opinion that wrote that full inspection for this, that was requested by Christine through all the emails that you can also see in the staff report. That's exactly what we did. So we're coming to you, asking you to let us take down the building that is not able to be reconstructed.
Okay.
If I get an electrical engineer or architect to tell me that, that's gonna cost more money out of my pocket for you to just allow me to take an unsafe building down. I don't think that's okay. You're making it so hard for people like me to take down a building and replace it with something that's going to add more value to the city and the historic district. I would gladly come to you with all the new plans to make sure that the new building would meet everything that you want and more, just to make sure that mine's better than everything else. I'm happy to do that. My concern is the building is not safe. Whoever is squatting in there, breaking into the back door, they have broken down walls. I have put plywood. I have done everything that I can to keep that structure up. What if it falls? Then who's liable?
Okay. Thank you. You've made it clear that you feel that it's unsafe. We're not saying it's safe or unsafe. That's not for us to determine. It's for a professional in which to make that statement. Other board members can give their input. As I've already given my input, I feel that it needs to either be a structural engineer or an architect in which to make that assessment.
For common sense.
Yes.
Does any other board member have an opinion on that?
Well, I think the deeper issue that we have here is the rules that we have to make the decision by that's in the ordinance. And so without the information that has been requested to be able to appropriately respond to a building that would be desirable there, I don't know that we can make the assessment that we can demolish it now. I think that would have to happen at the same time that those plans are going to be presented.
So how many degrees of licensed people in the state of Florida needs to say that place needs to go?
Well,
That's
so
right.
far, we haven't had anyone except for our building official who said it's unsafe, but he didn't say it needed to be demolished.
Okay.
Your, whoever this is, Chief Inspection, is that the name of the
Right, that's the name
company?
of the company,
You
correct.
know, they've stated basically the same thing. They say that it needs to be demolished, but what is their
And-
criteria?
And if built back, it will not meet the Florida building codes.
Can I just add, the building official never went inside this building. He has no idea what this looks like. He went there on an unscheduled meeting. I tried to schedule a meeting with Christine and the building official. No one reached out to me with a date and time. The building official saw the exterior of the building only. I'm happy to schedule a meeting with him so he can go inside, but it's just prolonging the process. You know what I mean? So he has no idea of the condition of that home, other than driving by like everybody else.
Let me ask you, Paula, is, can we entertain maybe a continuance so we can bring back either a recommendation from your building official or the city of St. Cloud's building official that says the structure needs to be demolished now, or a structural engineer? Just go ahead and continue instead of a denial. I understand we
Yeah.
have an appeal process with a
Right.
city council, but we don't want, you know.
Sure,
we
you don't wanna
wanna
go through
work-
all that.
We want to work with everybody. We want to take.
So I have one question. So Christine, do we know whether or not Bob went in the building?
I just received an email that's in the record that said that he conducted a site visit and had determined the building was unsafe. That was his statement, but he did not say whether or not.
No
he
further
had-
details on
Yeah.
that. Okay.
Yeah, and I was not present for the site visit.
Well,
Okay. Bobby has a question if you,
oh, I'm sorry. Go
Can
ahead.
I ask, do you have
Yes,
an
ma'am.
estimate of how long before you guys would have the plans for the new construction? Do we have an estimate of how long that would take?
I mean, they're ready to go.
As soon as somebody will do the work.
Yeah, yeah, right.
well,
Like-
I mean,
like
based on the ordinance, we still cannot, you cannot initiate demolition until you have received a certificate of appropriateness for new construction. We can't give you the certificate of appropriateness for the new construction because you haven't provided any of that information. So that really is the crux of where you're at. We could, as a board, table this for a continuation until such time that you have the information to bring forward for us to consider it and be able to make that determination. Or we, can, our other option basically would be to do a denial because we don't have enough to basically give you a certificate of appropriateness for demolition because we don't meet the
So-
criteria of the ordinance.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, in the city's ordinance, I think it's 33.24.5 in B, and in the bottom half of that says, "The building official may order the demolition and notify the planning and zoning department of the impending action." In this instance, we don't need an appropriate, we don't need it. In
Well,
other words,
you have not been given a order of demolition by the building official.
No, that's
You're saying
one of
you
our
could get
other,
it.
that's one of our other remedies. Because I think once we take him inside, he'll go, holy smokes.
Well,
And
just-
y'all would too if
just-
I
just
take you inside.
For a point of consideration, we also had come before us, the hotel here on the corner of New York,
Mm-hmm.
which was also a consideration from the building official that basically said certain things needed to happen or it would need to be torn down. But it still had to go through us in order to get it. The building official didn't say you can tear it down.
Which I thought that would ease Paula's mind to where we've got to go through you to get something built over there, regardless if we demo that thing or not.
I mean, it's a home in the historic district, unfortunately, it
It,
does.
it
come
has
before
no
the board.
historical integrity whatsoever. When you go in there and you look at this piecemeal, it's just, there's none there.
Well,
And I understand, and I've been in the real estate business 43 years. I've seen a lot of really historical significant houses in this town that you couldn't drive a nail in any of the lumber because it was that hard.
yes, but
That is piecemeal. It doesn't have any,
it's been identified from a standpoint that it has historical value. The condition of it is not for us to sit and debate at this point in time
Sure.
and determine whether or not it's viable to fix or not, because you haven't provided us with professional.
so you need one more we need one more
You
person.
definitely need
If
to
you've had
make
two,
that
we
dot.
need one more.
But you actually have another dot to do because you're going to have to bring on your professionals for your architectural and your civil site plans in order to put that together. Those all have to happen in order for us to issue this per the ordinance.
Okay. So you are not going to allow us to move forward and demo that building? Okay?
That's
So our
correct.
next stop would be to go ahead and appeal to the city
Well,
council?
either that or this board has to approve a continuance.
Okay, well, how does everybody want to work together?
Hang on a
I want to
second.
keep it civil.
Staff wants to bring a point.
So let me just make a couple of recommendations here, if I may. You have several options that I hear you discussing, and you've talked with the applicant, so the board really should have an opportunity to talk amongst themselves right now. I mean, you're right here, but that's part of the proceedings. But I wanted to interject a couple of things. On that item B, just for clarification, the building official did say he determined that the building was unsafe. But what he did not determine was that an immediate demolition was, he didn't feel that that was to the point that we're at. If you all require an engineered report, keep in mind, now on the public record, we've had all this discussion about an unsafe building, and the applicant has professed how concerned they are for people's safety. So if you do decide to continue this, you really should address that. That might be that we have this conversation about a construction fence around the property, no trespassing signs, et cetera. But that's something that you all need to probably talk about in your discussion here. As far as a report from an engineer or an architect, this should be, when talking about a historic building, something that is looked at for the existing buildings section of the building code. So that's very important because on historic buildings, you can't get them to code, to today's code. It's just simply not possible. So if an engineer or an architect is looking at that, you all should make sure that it's to the existing building section of the Florida Building Code. So I think that's all I have right now, but you all should have this conversation amongst yourself and have the applicant come back with questions that you may have. But right now, it is a quasi judicial proceeding, so we just have to be careful how far we stray outside.
Been there,
of
done
it.
that,
Yeah,
all about it.
okay. I'm just trying to keep
Just
it neat for
trying to
you
use real
guys.
common sense.
Tony, did you have something to say? You look like you're ready to, to bring forth with something.
No, I'm thinking.
Well, while you're thinking, there was one other item, and that is if you choose to continue the item and allow the applicant some time to put those drawings together, just make sure photographs or renderings, that's not enough. We have to have actually dimension drawings to know what we're looking at, because when you get into the section with size, scale, massing, setbacks, et cetera, we do need dimension drawings for that, and photographs and renderings don't show that. So
And
that was the last point of
How
clarification.
long do you think that would take?
To produce that?
Yes.
Oh, that would be a question for the applicant. I don't know who their team is. I don't know who their design team is. As far as meeting to discuss the design, I would be willing to meet with the applicant as soon as possible to discuss design for new construction. So my scheduling to assist them with the new construction design can happen very quickly, but I don't know how long it would take them for their design team to actually create those deliverables that the board would need. That would be a question for the
Okay.
applicant.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does any board member want to speak on this in regards to what the applicant or staff has talked about?
I mean, I think there's, what Paula was just discussing as far as possibly maybe a continuance to give them some time to get together the documentation that we need to, two of the things that are outstanding, we don't have plans, so we can't prove, so maybe a continuance and then some kind of maybe a safety measure. Can we do that in the interim? What that would look like? That would give them time to get their plans drawn.
I do want to point out, though, that if we do go down this road, and Christine, you may have to, jump in here, and we come back whatever time the continuance gets to, you're pretty much having them tell you, I'm going to bring this back, you're going to like what we have, and then you're going to say you can demo the building.
So, yeah, this gets a little tricky with the continuance, because if you do a continuance and then you require them to provide all this information to you, but in the end, your feeling and sentiment is that you are going to deny the demolition request, then you've now really made them incur a very major expense to do that. So that's one of the things about the continuance, are you going to approve or deny the demolition? That should really be the basis on the continuance, because you don't want to put an undue financial burden on them to create all these documentation and all of this and then not be willing to approve that in the end. So that's just legally something that you would have to think about probably before you make your decision. If you all deny the request, the applicant can appeal to the city council, state their case to the city council. That would be a faster process probably than having them go through all the drawings and all of that. So that's just different things to consider, and this is where, after you discuss, you may ask the applicant some questions about their time frame and how they feel about that. But that is, and if you go down the road and they spend thousands of dollars in drawings and then you deny the demolition request, they're back to square one. Make sense? So squeaky.
Christine, I have a question. Do you know what the zoning is for the property?
That's a commercial zoning. Bernadette, what is the exact zoning? CBD.
2,
Thank you.
CBD 2.
CBD 2. I mean, what their use that they're wanting to do it's
Is
appropriate for the CBD
Okay.
2 criteria. That's not the issue. I mean, it's really
I
just an issue
understand. I was just curious.
does the board feel that based on the requirements of what we're supposed to do per the ordinance, that you could, approve, or do you feel that you need to deny it? A continuance, I agree, could take them more time and expense. If we deny it, then their process is to run through the public process to the city council for that. maybe faster than the amount of time it's going to take them to actually process a site development plan.
What I don't want to see is the applicant go through all those measures and spend the money and then come back to you all and then you deny the demolition request, because that would be unfortunate.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Yes, go ahead.
provided that their elevations and their designs meet the historic district criteria and meet the approval of the board, I don't see a problem with the demolition at that point. Is that something that we can look at? Is that the page we're on, I guess, is what I'm trying to ask. Based on the code in front of us, we have to have the demolition COA and the new construction COA simultaneously. And we have to have that information to look at for the new construction COA before we can, by code, approve,
Before the demolition can move forward, yes.
before the demolition can move forward. Thank you.
I mean, there are others, like Member Estelle has indicated that he doesn't see an issue. That's his point of view. What are the other members' points of view in regards to the historically, appropriateness of removing this building?
So if we continue it, we're basically agreeing that provided everything matches the historic significance, that then we're okay with demolishing it.
Now, if you continue it, what they have to do is to bring forward the information that they would have to do for the certificate of appropriateness for the new construction.
Okay.
And that typically involves what is going to be done from a site development plan, which includes architectural renderings and a site plan that shows how the new structure would be sited on the plan, what it's going to look at, all the architectural elements that was discussed, and that by staff with the lists of design elements that need to be considered. That's where we would be at. We would still be trying to make that determination. And, honestly, that could be 3 to 4 months down the road.
You can also continue it to allow the applicant time to get an engineer, as your discussion earlier. So an architect or an engineer to actually do an assessment of the building, so you all have more information when it comes back to you. But I just wanted to caution the continuance without that, because the continuance absence of that request is kind of implying that you all would approve the demolition. But if you base your continuance on additional information, such as an engineer's report, then that makes a lot more sense. Am I being clear? Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
It may be,
Yes,
I may
Member
be
Horning.
jumping ahead, but anyway, my question is, I looked at the diagram of what the new building would look like. Are you taking into consideration the historical nature that we're trying to have instead of some design that isn't historical at all?
So the information that was provided at this time does not meet the requirements that are outlined
Right.
for the historic district. So right now, that it's problematic because there was insufficient information, but the information that was there did not comply with that section for new construction.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Member
I am
Jones.
ready to make a motion. If nobody else has anything
you are-
else to say.
You were able to make a motion.
Okay. I move to deny the request for a certificate of appropriateness to demolish the existing contributing building and replace it with a new two-story metal building located at 1613 10th Street, based on a finding that the proposed activity is not consistent with the purpose and intent of ordinance number 2018-57, City of St. Cloud Land Development Code, Article 3, Division 24, Historic Preservation Overlay, HPO District, and does not comply with the requirements outlined in ordinance number 2018-57 as outlined in the staff report. Specifically, the denial is based on the following determination. The proposed demolition of a contributing historic structure requires a simultaneous certificate of appropriateness for new construction, which the board is unable to grant at this time due to insufficient information. The property owner has not provided evidence that they are unable to comply with the requirements due to advanced age, infirmity, physical or other debilitating handicap, or financial hardship. The resources contribute significantly to the historic character of a designated district and is capable of being repaired and reused in a practical and feasible manner. The proposed new construction does not comply with the criteria related to new construction and alterations outlined in the ordinance. Specifically, the setting, orientation, setbacks, building height, design style, proportion of openings, rhythm of solids to voids, rhythm of spacing along the street, relationship of materials and textures, roof shape, size, scale, bulk, mass, and volume do not comply with the requirements outlined in the ordinance. The Historic Preservation Board requests that the building official require action to be taken by the property owner to secure the building from further damage and the site from access prior to submitting a building permit application for repair. Securing the building from further damage may include, but not be limited to, providing additional bracing, framing, and securing fenestrations with plywood. Securing the site from access may include, but not be limited to, erecting a construction fence around the building with clearly marked caution and no trespassing signs. It's the end of my motion.
Thank you for that motion. Do we have a second to the motion?
I can't believe there's not a second. This is the fastest way to get it to the city council.
I'll second it.
We have a second
Now
by
we can
Member
have
Horning.
discussion.
I'm not going to repeat verbatim what was just said because I don't know that I could. I'm assuming that we've recorded this and it's on the record. All right, further discussion in regards to the motion. All right, if there's no further comment, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise?
Nay.
Nay.
Did you get that, or do you need a hand vote?
Hand vote, please.
All those in favor of the motion, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, raise your hand. And since I didn't look around when the hands were being raised,
Yeah, then the motion does not pass.
the motion did not pass. All right.
So with that, I would like to make a motion to continue the application for 1613 10th Street based on the fact that we do not have anyone who is certified, or whatever terminology you want to give it, to state that this building needs to be demolished. So whether the applicant can get an architect or our building official can do a specific site visit and give that information back to us. And then I think we make the demolition decision at that time.
I'll second.
We have a second. All right, is there further discussion? My discussion that I'd bring up is the fact that you didn't mention
Safety?
So what staff recommended is in regards to referring to the Florida Building Code for existing buildings. That section is pertinent as far as to the professional that's reviewing it. And
Okay,
also- and
then
then
I
to
will amend the motion
safety.
to include that whoever, our building official or an architect, make sure that the standards are met for Florida statute building codes.
For the-
And in addition to that, the safety measures, I do think you need to try to secure the building for safety and for your own liability.
Do we need to specifically say the historic?
Actually, we need either someone to re-second it again for the amendment. So if you wanted to second the amendment, then we can have further discussion.
Can I second the amendment?
Yes, I mean,
Okay, I second the amendment.
all right, the motion's been made and amended and seconded. So further discussion,
Can you just add that the standards that they're looking at when they go look at the building, is that to this historic preservation
Well,
standard?
that's already part of what has been requested of them.
all right, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion,
Can you repeat the motion specifically?
did you write it down fast enough to repeat it, or
I
shall we
didn't
ask
write it
Paula
down
to
fast enough.
summarize one more time?
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
Sorry.
I'm old, I can't remember things from 5
Sorry.
minutes ago.
Just-
Okay, I move that we continue the application for 1613 10th Street so that an architect and our building official can do a certified opinion on the safety and whether or not the building needs to be demoed, brought back to us for that decision, including a safety measure so that the applicant has, less liability, and the safety of the citizens, in addition to the historic preservation nature of,
And I think you said that it meets the building code.
yes, the Florida building codes. They need to include that in their report.
All right, there was the motion repeated. All those in favor of the motion to continue signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed likewise. I believe the motion passed that time. So we've continued, and the applicant, you've got direction as far as the things that need to happen to bring back to us. And I can look at the agenda to see where we're at.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right, that concludes the new business. That moves on to item A of old business, board goals and objectives and, board goals and objectives assignment.
Okay.
Okay, so the next thing we have on the agenda are the board goals and objectives assignment. So Jesse, did you print those copies of the board's goals and objectives? Do they have that in front of them?
Yes, each
Okay.
member has the goals and
And the objectives.
and the project rating sheet as well.
So at our January meeting, we really want to have this clearly fleshed out, our work plan for the whole year. We talked about this at the last meeting. So what I would like for you to do is to review these over the next 2 weeks. And between now and the next 2 weeks, I want you to actually rank them. So from your desired highest priority to your lowest priority. And I want you to get those back to me. So if you want to just kind of fill this out with your name on it and scan it and get it back to me. I'd like to get them back in 2 weeks because what I'm going to do is actually take the way that you all have ranked them and kind of put them in a initial order of ranking based on the board feedback. And that way, when we come to meet in January, we're not having long drawn-out discussions about what's more important and, who thinks what's higher priority. So hopefully, when I get that scoring back from you all, we'll see that 3 board members agree that this item should be top priority, and 4 board members agree that this should be number 2 priority. And so that way, we have a starting point for that meeting. So I just wanted to go over this just real quick. This was something that I received from the city that was based on previous discussions that the board had. So some of you may be new board members, maybe you weren't there for these discussions. But they came up with a board list of projects and rankings, and they had some associated timelines with those. So one was to identify and revise the board's goals and objectives. 2 is to create a preservation plan for the board. 3 was to update the preservation ordinance to reflect the updated survey and adopt the certificate of appropriateness review chart as part of the LDC, Land Development Code. 4 is to have certified local government and historic preservation board training. 5 is to create design guidelines for the historic district. 6 is to create a fact sheet on historical information to be shared with the city's public information officer on the city's communication platforms and to educate the community on the historic preservation overlay district. 7 is to nominate a historic preservation district to the National Register. Now, I will say that 7 is in process right now. St. Cloud Main Street did get a state grant to move forward with the National Register nomination. That is being worked on. Number 8 is to identify other possible historic districts within the city and possibly create a larger overlay district to include more resources. And just as a reminder, the 1993 survey that Brenda Elliott did for the city was really comprehensive. She looked at approximately 1,200 properties. The last survey that we did looked at under 300 properties. So there's a lot more historic out there, of historic St. Cloud out there than what has been recently surveyed.
On that note, Christine, can I ask a question and/or make a statement?
Sure.
Because one of the things that had previously been discussed is adding the overlay in lieu of paying the amount of money it would take to have that completely re-inventoried, was whether or not we could just take the 1993 book, the inventory that's different from what's in our district, and make that the overlay.
That's very, very outdated. That would be problematic.
Okay.
Because one of the things you're looking at is whether things are contributing, non-contributing. There could have also been demolition since then. So between 1993 and now, there's probably a lot of things that could have happened from an exterior appearance perspective from these buildings, that if you take something that may have been contributing before and it might not be contributing now and say it's contributing, that could be problematic, and the reverse could be problematic as well. If something was non-contributing before, but say over the years, you had a really sensitive property owner who did the right thing, that could now be contributing. So it's very, very outdated. I wouldn't recommend it.
I'm just trying to figure out where the city's supposed to get the money. Because it's not like a few $1,000s, it's hundreds of thousands.
Well,
of
it
dollars.
doesn't all have to be at the same time. I mean, they could continue to apply for grants and do it as certain areas. So they could, do chunk at a time, and that could be a long-range plan. And all of these on here, obviously, it's a very big kind of wish list. So this is not all things that are going to occur in 1 year. So as you look at this and do your ranking, it's, what do you think are the most important things, this year and following years? So as you number them, just keep that in mind. Good? Okay. The next thing is locally designate landmarks and/or specific structures outside of the district. For example, Peace Cemetery. Then number 11 is an objective for marketing and education to the public, and that would include preparing an informational brochure for the public that is accessible in person or online, creating a brochure for public education on the Historic Preservation District, including children's schools, some things like a coloring book or a scavenger hunt, promoting preservation through websites, historic bingo, 5K runs or walks, historic preservation phone app for younger residents' attention to historical landmarks, the city working with local realtors to provide historic information to buyers, an education program to teach the community about historic preservation and what type of work requires a C of A, potential marketing of Mount Peace Cemetery, and a plaque program. And there's a couple of things that were being looked at as well. The new historic preservation survey, at the time that was marked almost complete, it has since been completed. So we're going to work on getting that fully finalized through City Commission. Updating a mural program in the district, comparison of C of A fees to other nearby municipalities, and having a running list of C of A cases that have been reviewed in the past. I'm actually working on that one. I'm in the middle of working on that one right now. So if you could just well, first off, if you have a question about any of these that I just read to you, let's discuss it now. But if you don't have any questions, if you could get your personal preference for your ranking back to me in about 2 weeks. Like I said, you can even just, once you do it, take a photo with your phone and send it over via email. It doesn't have to be complicated, or if you want to scan it and get it over to me. Okay?
And just to understand, 2 weeks puts it between Christmas and New Year's, just so everybody
2
understands.
weeks is my desire, but at a minimum, if I could get it a week before the meeting, so like the first week of January, then that will give me time to compile this. I don't want you all to have to sit in a meeting where it drags on to be a 2-hour meeting. I would, if it's more organized up front, we could keep the meeting time, a little bit shorter.
For the marketing and educating the public, I was part of a online Zoom training, and they had Instagram pages and Facebook pages. Would that be possible to add on there or have as well?
Yeah, this is all open
Okay.
for discussion. So these were just marketing examples. This
Okay.
wasn't intended to be like an exhaustive list of
Right.
examples.
Okay.
So any ideas that you have, creative ideas, anything outside the box, we can all discuss and,
Okay.
and figure. And there is one thing that I will say, where is it here? Under marketing and education, an education program to teach the community about historic preservation and what type of work requires a C of A. We're talking about doing our work sessions in advance of the meeting. So that's something, think about what kind of trainings you think citizens might actually enjoy. And maybe 2 times a year or 3 times a year, we can actually invite them to the board meeting or some other event, so they could have that training. And on that note, I spoke at Breakfast with the Pros for Main Street a couple of months ago, and I was asked by a couple of people if we could have historic preservation spoken about in St. Cloud from a contractor perspective. So I did reach out to a friend of mine who owns a window and door restoration company. He also has a national blog called the Craftsman Blog that's been around for something like 15 years, and he has agreed to come and do that training with me. So we'll definitely let you know about that, but that's going to be pretty interactive. We're going to have, old building materials and things like that for that discussion, so we'll have some visual aids. But that would be a good one to definitely promote and try to get citizens and property owners out to that particular Breakfast with the Pros. It's early in the morning, but would be a good one.
What are you saying? You don't want to get up that early?
I get up that early for you, Paula.
I
I've
know.
done it before. So, yeah, and that second page just, goes in tandem with that. So if you could prioritize that in that second page, that'll help prepare us for that. And the only other thing I had is that board work session plan. Similarly, as you're going to prepare this, when you send me that email with your thoughts, if you could send me thoughts on any presentations that you might want to see in the coming year, then I can also compile those. And when we talk about that, because in the January meeting, what I want to do is I want to set that work session agenda pretty much for the year. So, if you want our training on architecture, a particular architecture design, like Craftsman style or something, it would be nice if we can have that set at the beginning of the year. So better advertising for your information as well. It's just nice to have that. And saying that things sometimes do change, so we might have something set for a work session item that you all want to change. So, but it's good to have a plan going into it.
Was there a handout in regards to the board work session plan? Or
No,
was that just
that's
from
just
our
your
previous
ideas
decision?
of,
Okay.
yeah.
Just want to make sure I'm not missing something out of my
No,
packet.
just your ideas of what we can bring to work session trainings. Because remember, the work sessions, as we went over last meeting when you all agreed to it, that's going to be an opportunity for you all to have trainings. So those are the 45 minutes before the board meeting, then we'll stop for 15 minutes and then start the board meeting.
So Christine, do we need to put on our itinerary now, or do we want to get further in our grant process for the National Registry for the June meeting?
So, yeah, thank you so much for reminding me of that. What did we say? Did we set a rescheduled date? My
June
computer-
14th, I believe.
June 14th. Thank
Remember,
you
we
so
talked
much.
about Flag Day and all that stuff, but, because we worked around a couple of different things.
Yeah, we did. Thank you for reminding me about that. So we did have a meeting with the state about the National Register nomination, and part of that requirement is that there's a public workshop, public information workshop. And so the officials from the state actually will come, and that's also a good opportunity at that time to do a CLG training. So I still have to verify that that would be the right time to do it, but we could potentially get everything done in that day where you all will have a CLG training, but we'll also give all this information about the National Register nomination to the public and allow the public to ask us any questions and for us to answer any questions about the National Register nomination. And we did say that would be June 14th, which is, that was a scheduled meeting date.
Yes, it was.
That wasn't one of the ones that we changed.
We changed
The May
November
meeting is-
8th because
yeah.
it was federal election
And
day.
May meeting is happening a week earlier.
Does it matter that's Flag Day?
I'm sorry?
Does it matter it's Flag Day?
No.
No.
I don't think so.
Well-
And,
Well, people whose birthday it is.
And also, that's the day I arrived in Alaska in 1969,
wow.
in the middle of the parade.
Member Jones is dating herself just a little there.
So
I'm old.
one thing that I had was actually a request, and the board could choose to do this or not. I also teach I'm an adjunct instructor at a couple of colleges, so I do have a scheduled class on January 11th, which is our next meeting. So I can have a guest speaker for that class. That's already been arranged. But when I talked to the dean of the school, and this is the New York School of Interior Design, we talked about how this would be a good educational opportunity for the students to actually see a board meeting in session. So if I have your permission to, I would like the students to actually just be able to attend virtually and watch your board session, which all it would be like an iPad set up over here, filming you via Zoom. So,
It's a public meeting.
yeah. But I feel like I should still ask for permission because this would be
She wants to
definitely
make
for
sure that we do our hair that night.
them. Be on your
I'll
best
be sure to
behavior.
smile.
So everybody make sure that their good side is aimed at the.
right.
Yeah, we just thought it would be a good opportunity for students to see what citizens actually do when they volunteer to serve on
And I
historic
promise to
preservation boards.
behave.
Well, that'll take
We'll
all
have
the
that
fun.
conversation afterwards.
Is everybody okay with that?
Sure.
Okay, perfect. That's all I had for agenda items, but I told you all last month, if you do a special meeting, that I like to reward my December meeting people with some goodies, so I have some stuff for you.
Oh, my goodness.
So you can do that while we open the floor then to public comment. How's that sound?
They're gonna rush up.
We'll go ahead and open the floor to public comment. Is there anybody in the public
Thank
that wishes to
you.
speak
Thank
at this
you.
point in time?
Very, very loud.
I love Santa Claus.
All right. Given the lack of response, I will close out the public comment, which opens to
Thank you so much.
individual board comments. So we'll start with Member Jones. And Member Jones, please remember you have a 1.5 minute time limitation.
Haven't I used up all my words tonight?
You
Mr.
may
Chair?
have.
It's a long list.
That motion alone.
It was recommended by our staff.
I don't have an issue with it. The fact that you gave a thorough motion was appreciated. I just
I
was not
was-
going to repeat it verbatim.
I was just establishing the record for appeal, since we're a quasi-judicial body. And I apologize about my phone and my not being able to follow along in the packet. I have a neurological condition which makes my eyes cross. And so I was having trouble reading
Okay.
and following in the packet, and it was a miracle I was able to read that long motion. They just, if I shut the left eye, I can kind of read. But thank you for indulging me, and I'll try to be much nicer next year.
You have 3 weeks, Missy.
I'm not going to comment on the nicety or not. So, Member Horning, would you have any comments?
Yeah, I would just like to share with you all that I went to the Christmas ball Friday night that was hosted by the Sons of the Union Veterans. and the Daughters of the Union Veterans, and it was really beautiful. The ladies had their beautiful ball dresses on and the hoop skirts, and the men had their uniforms. There were different kinds of uniforms that were worn, and the dancing was just spectacular. The Virginia reels and all the different reels that they did, and there was regular dancing too, waltzes and so forth. But anyway, it was well worth going to, and I'm sure they're planning on doing another one next year again in December. The food was good, the decorations were good. They worked very, very hard on it. And so I was glad that I took the time to go. Yeah,
Me
Thank you.
too.
yeah.
Well, the good news is that they're doing it again in May.
Yeah. Well,
Are they really?
Yes.
I
Yeah,
don't
it's
know
with
about
Main
that,
Street.
but I don't know, they put a lot of
They've
work
already
into this
committed.
one.
Oh, dear.
And if not, they'll be committed because I've already gotten sponsors for it, so.
You know you're gonna get committed.
So Vice Chair Stark, do you have any personal
No,
comments?
we have a ball in May. Other than that, I think we've already covered the grant and that's moving forward, so.
All right. Member Wright? Member
No
Still?
comments at this time.
Member Day, did you have any comments? Anything to share?
It's just nice to see people so passionate about their projects.
Thank you. And so, let's see, that covers information. Next meeting, the 11th. Be ready to get your proper side for the iPad viewing of the classes. And that's it, so we will adjourn.
Ooh, I'm gonna turn my phone on. My oldest great-granddaughter had to have her
It's actually the
appendix out
5.
yet.